We are live. This is Crash Canon. I'm Chris, locking in with Majorian here. Majorian, tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Oh man, that's a fun question. I am a mid-tier Catholic poster on Twitter.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you mean? You mean a tweeter? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I like
It's
mid-tier.
posting now. You get sued by Elon if you call it tweeting.
Yeah, I would say I was low tier, and then things happened, and I think I've upped my tier. I'm on my ascent towards becoming the white monster. It's an ongoing journey for me.
He's on the ascent of Mount Carmel, guys.
It's a process of spiritual growth, and I'm just going to continue to go and consume copious amounts of energy drinks and anabolic steroids and just get going.
And convince young millennials like myself that white monster is a good idea.
Yeah, I'm basically like their free advertising at this point. Like they should actually pay me. Though the company is run by
a bunch
people
of
who
monsters.
I won't even talk about that. But
it can't be as bad as Wizards of the Coast or whatever the heck runs Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, I don't know. It could be.
Were you ever a card gamer, Majorian, or not really?
Not a big card guy. No, except for solitaire.
I grew up at the height of like collecting trading cards, but I never did the Magic the Gathering thing.
I had a couple Pokemon cards back in the day, I think.
I had like a cheapo knockoff Pokemon card set, and then my sister thought it would be a fun idea to get me a whole set from Japan, which I obviously couldn't read because I was 6. It was in Japanese. Oh man. Anyway, so what brings you here tonight, Majorian? No, I'm just kidding.
You brought me here.
I brought you here. This is my train wreck. No. Oh, there we go. Mr. LaPonte. It was all about Yu-Gi-Oh. Yeah, I had some of those. That's for sure. I probably still have a few I haven't put on eBay yet, somewhere in this house. All right. So here we go. Taffy's got a question for you, but we'll hold that for a little later. I do enjoy this one, the ascent of becoming a seed. I do think we should have a little discussion about Lefebvre at some point tonight. I think you'd be a good one to have that conversation with.
Oh boy. All right.
Why Lefebvre appeals to a lot of young Gen Z Catholics. I think he does. And I've watched the entire documentary that they put out on him, and I'm just like, man, if he didn't have the weird, non-canonical thing that went on in the 80s, 90s, he'd definitely be on the way to sainthood right now.
Oh yeah, he's a saint.
Like, there's no doubt in my mind that if he didn't have that, asterisk according to the church, which I don't necessarily agree with, he would be officially on the way to at least on the way to canonization, one or the other. Anyway, that's a different story. And his missionary work in Africa was unparalleled. I mean, he did so much work in Africa. It was amazing.
Yeah, he's the best.
No, I'm not gonna push Majorian on that, Taffy. Thank you, though. Maybe if you create some cool intros for me like you do for Avoiding Babylon, although I do like my intro, but if you created some cool, silly intros, I would consider it.
Be warned, because he'll do that. He'll do it.
I'm down. I'm definitely down for a Taffy intro one of these days. I got quite a few Gen Z folks coming on that would appreciate a Taffy intro at some point. So how did you end up with the name Majorian on Twitter?
That's a great question. I'm a very autistic man. All right. And I've always had an interest in Roman history, right? Mm-hmm. Specifically late imperial history.
Okay.
So it's kind of a niche one because a lot of people are like, when they think of Roman history, they'll think of like the Republic, maybe they'll think of the Punic Wars, and then they'll think of Caesar. And then like maybe they'll think about Constantine. I'm more interested in like what's happening after Constantine. So I've always been a very big late empire guy. And when I was thinking of a name for my burner Twitter, which is just now my Twitter, I was thinking, I should use my birth name, Majorian. It's not actually my birth name, but I was thinking, I wanted it to be named after someone. I find I get uncomfortable when people name their Twitter account after like a saint or something like that. That just, it rubs, it just personally feels uncomfortable for me, just because I am no saint. So I figured, I'm into Rome. I like Roman history. I'll pick some Roman emperor, and it has to be a Western emperor because I'm not a bizlarper. So some Roman emperor that was also Christian, that was good. And I was like, well, Majorian's a pretty good fit because
Clearly, you got to pick Julian. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah, yeah. So there's really not a lot of Christian emperors that were good, unfortunately.
Fair enough.
So, and
Julian's literally the apostate. That's why I was joking with it by him. Julian the apostate.
my real name is Tyrone.
I believe
that's true.
that.
Fact check's true.
Yeah, that makes sense. That you look like a Tyrone, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I picked Majorian. I was contending against a couple names, and then I looked on here and I was like, there's not a lot of Majorians, so like I'll do that, and I've just stuck with it since then.
Is when I googled Majorian, not googled, but I Twitter searched Majorian earlier, a whole bunch came up. I was like, I didn't think there was that many.
They're just copying me.
They must. They're all like Selfie Gate. I want that, so they jumped on it. So I've had people won't be able to find these because there's no way you would be able to associate them with me. But I have had plenty of burner accounts on Twitter. I know exactly what you were doing and why you did it. So just wanted to say there is definitely some lore in the background here with some of my Anon accounts in the past. We won't get into that. Won't get into that today. There's no way you'll find them. Taffy's going to find them tomorrow. On that note, though, how do you feel about you put your face out there, but you're still anonymous on Twitter? I know you talked about this with Anthony quite a bit.
Yeah.
How did that choice come about? And when was the first time you showed your face on a camera?
I think first time I face doxed was on Latin Slavs. Guys, go subscribe to Latin Slavs.
There's this cool guy that does their thumbnails sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much because Anthony doesn't know how to make them. And they were bullying me in the chat to come on their show, and I think they thought I wasn't going to, so I just like, screw it, I'll just go on for the meme. And then after that, I was like, well, the cat's out of the bag. Might as well just send it and just keep going on. I don't mind it too much. I mean, like people, even without my face out there, people could probably find me if they were really like hyper fixated on it. Now they can definitely find me. Just don't, please. I prefer if you wouldn't.
Nice. Oh, I do want to represent the new shirt I just got, by the way.
Oh yeah.
So shout out to the Tridentine, whatever the heck, how you pronounce it. Because I even asked Trevor when he was on my show, and he goes, Tridentine. I'm like, okay, that's an even different pronunciation. I've heard Tridentine, I've heard Tridentine, I've heard Tridentine, I've heard Tridentine.
It's Tridentine.
So, I've heard that too. I've heard
dogmatic declaration.
Anyway, shout out to these guys. They are super cool. Their beer is really delicious. If you're 21 or older, go try it.
Yeah.
If you're under 21, I can't recommend it.
Yeah, if you're under 21, you probably should be watching. Let's be honest, guys.
That's probably
I get a little spicy.
Ex cathedra.
Yeah.
It's been declared. Okay. So let's get back to why post at all? If you're an anonymous account, are you on there to troll? Are you on there to make a point? What was the intent?
I think initially, that's a good question. I think initially I probably was just on there to do a little bit of trolling.
As we all are.
The problem is my main is just so boring and lame, and it has people that know me. And I prefer when people don't know me as much in my actual job, because my job is could be relatively affected by what I do on here.
Fair
so
enough.
I was like, oh, you know what? I want to actually say what I think, do a little bit of trolling. And then I also have always been like very interested in just talking. I mean, my Twitter account is basically just like a mental diary. I don't like filter things out usually when I tweet. I just kind of tweet what I think. And then sometimes I'll filter it, but usually it's just kind of like a constant stream of consciousness.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it is. Like I'll tweet about pretty much anything. I'll go from tweeting about quotes from like "Thus spoke Zarathustra" by Nietzsche to like talking about the overhead press the next tweet. So like there's really like no rhyme or reason. I just kind of say what I think, and I think that's just the way to do it. Oh boy.
I don't know if we need to go into that. Probably shouldn't. Oh man. So here's the next question, the follow-up to that. Do you feel like an anonymous account can make a difference, or do you think that anonymous accounts get dismissed? I've seen the Patrick Coffin take. He basically says, if your name's not out there, I'm not taking you seriously. But I've also seen people like Anthony even just platform you on their show. So like, do you think as an anonymous account, even if you didn't show your face, do you think you can make a difference as an anonymous account?
Yeah, I think the idea that anonymous accounts, like, you shouldn't take them seriously is just such a boomer take. And I'm sorry. I'll go ahead and caveat whatever Chris says is not what I say. We don't believe the same things necessarily. It's not a 1-to-1 ratio. So don't, just because I say something spicy, don't attack him for that. But
no,
anyway,
definitely do. You should attack me for all of my guests, just like Anthony did.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways,
do you remember that?
I do remember that. Because Coffin came at me like probably 2 days ago about the same thing. Like,
did he really?
Yeah, you shouldn't be anonymous.
He hit me on one of my burners once.
And it's just like, it's such a boomer take, because you know what? This guy's been doing like professional Catholicism for like 30 years.
I know, right? Like there's no threat of him getting canceled from Catholicism. The thing the boomers don't get with this is they lived in an age before cancellation was really a thing. They don't boomers
understand.
Don't cancel, they just yell.
They don't understand like the crazy leftist mobs that will go to these people's like jobs and like mass campaign to get them fired. They haven't lived through that, and most of them are already financially well off or work for themselves. That doesn't affect them at all. So like they have no concern there. And they'll say it's like you're being a coward. And I would just say, I just say most of these people don't have anything interesting to say, to be honest. And sometimes Nietzsche talks about this. Sometimes when I have to reference, when you're behind a mask, you can say what you actually believe. That's like your inner self coming out, more so than I'll say things on my Twitter that I wouldn't necessarily go to my family dinner and say. I believe both of those things. It's choosing your audience, right? And I think anonymous accounts have a place sometimes. They do definitely get abused. And like some
you
people
would agree slightly with Trent Horn on that it could be a danger to saying things that you would regret saying publicly.
Yeah, there's definitely a danger there. And I think
if you treat an anon account as if it is a public account, it could be completely safe to use.
Yeah, I get a little bit more spicy on here than I would on like an account with like my first and last name on it. But like
Clark Kent, guys, his name's Clark Kent. No, I'm just kidding.
If you there's ways, like the way I think about it is like I always assume someday my identity will get released. Like someone's gonna figure it out. And I just prepare for that day, and I'm like, all right, don't post cringe on main, and just as long as I'm like doing all right, and not being super crazy, like save the super crazy stuff for the group chats with the boys. That's
which,
really
by the way, okay, you know what? There's nothing more lame than somebody who takes the group chat public. Like that is the lamest thing you can do. So if you're in a group chat with the boys, you don't share that.
Yeah, I think that's in the Bible somewhere. I think it's in Leviticus or something.
Yeah, probably. 2 slashes for every revealed group chat.
Yeah, for sure.
Up to and including 40. No, 40 minus 1. That's what it was, right? 39 lashes. That way you're 1 away from death. Isn't that what it was? Because Paul got that like a bunch of times. When he's like, can you imagine? He's like walking around early Christendom, because it's not Christendom yet, but it will be. And he's just getting lashed every town he goes to. The townspeople are like, this dude's crazy. What the heck is he doing? And then the leaders of these small towns like, well, clearly he needs to get whipped. Like that's clearly the right option here. And he's like, what the heck?
You got St. Paul getting whipped, and then your average Catholic like e-boy is now like posting with their ring light. What have we come to as a world, as a church? Yeah.
I do have one.
Roast
I just
him.
I don't use it correctly. Oh man. Okay, so here's a question for you. Like I really enjoyed some various priests and bishops online, and then in the case where modern excommunications occur or they start going off the deep end, what do you do when your heroes start to turn into kind of pseudo villains or maybe just not within communion with Rome?
Are you talking about like going like the Sedevacantis route, kind
Some
of?
of them have done that. Some of them have gotten some, formal excommunications. There's been a lot of very strange things that have happened. I almost feel like there's a danger to saying the right thing all the time because eventually your mind will start to warp and the devil will start to try and steer you away from the church. I think that sometimes happens.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I view how I do those kind of interpersonal relationships on Twitter is a very simple metric. If they're my friend, I'll be nice to them, and if they're not my friend, I won't be nice to them. And that's
Oh,
kind of how that works.
I'm not talking about that specifically. I'm just saying, like, so for example, we had Archbishop Vigano, who was very, very rigidly correct for a while. And then he started slowly kind of going a different way. And at some point, I was like, I don't know if what he's saying is right anymore, because it seems like he's taken this hard stance in one direction on, say, for example, the Pope at one point. And so I just stopped listening to what he was putting out at that point. But it's hard because some of these leaders that you follow online are correct most of the time, and then you start to err in one way or the other, whether it's becoming a Pope splainer who forgives every stupid thing the Pope says, or you go the other direction and you end up becoming basically a sedevacantist.
Yeah, I think the way I kind of view this stuff is you don't have to comment on everything.
Right. I
So
would agree with that.
if you see someone going off the deep end, but you like the rest of the work, you can like the rest of the work and then just like ignore the other part. I like to ignore some things sometimes. Like you'll see there's a lot of people who will, they'll have a cringe take every once in a while, and you can just ignore the cringe take, or you can crash out on them and like burn a bridge. You have those two
Yeah.
options. I choose just to ignore people, and if people are like just continuously posting cringe, you can just mute them. You don't even have to unfollow them. You can just mute them.
And muting is like the silent treatment.
It's
Like
amazing.
you won't hear from me. I won't see your stuff, but you're welcome to follow me and say things like that. It's basically the silent treatment for like Gen Z.
It's wonderful. I love it.
I definitely utilize the mute button more often than I utilize the block button.
I don't think I've blocked anybody at all on this account. I think I've actually no, that's not true. I blocked that Lizzie chick.
Farming
because,
and Jesus.
Yes, because
Yeah.
the way she posts her content, it's just like she will block you. You'll make a reply to her. She'll block you before you can reply back to her rebuttal, and then like a day later, she'll unblock you so that she can get your engagement back. And I just find that so like gay.
That's pretty pathetic
and dishonest that I'm just like, I'm just not going to engage with that at all. So I'll just block them. Most of the like bad Protestant cult posters I just have blocked because they are just intellectually dishonest and I won't deal with it. But like generally I don't block anybody. I'm usually the one that gets blocked very quickly. Usually very quickly.
You have to do something very horrible for me to block you, or you have to constantly post coal that I have to see. So like if you're posting coal and I don't see it, you're probably not blocked. But if you're posting coal and I somehow the Twitter thinks I need to see that over and over and over again, eventually you're getting the block. Or if your account has anything to do with Satan, I will block any account that says Satan in the title.
Valid. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I prefer if someone's posting coal, I prefer to just troll them until I get blocked. I find that's the more entertaining route for me, anyways. So instead of blocking people, just troll them a little bit until you get blocked. This is the strat. Lefebvre talks about that, I think.
What's your estimate for the number of accounts that have blocked you?
Oh man,
do you have one?
I have to. I don't know if I can. I don't know if Twitter like tracks that. I definitely know it is in the double digits. the first
Right. Do you think you
person,
hit triple digits yet, or you think you're still in the doubles?
not quite triple. The first person that blocked me on this account was Dave Rubin, I think.
That's a win. That's a
Yeah,
win. He's
'cause
a fake. He's a fake right winger.
I called him a human trafficker. He didn't like that. And
Hey,
then
Pope Francis agrees with you. We should not
yeah,
be paying to have children created for the sake of couples who can't have them. We should only be adopting ones that are already here.
yeah. And I think the second person was religious hippie. So, and then it's just kind of spiraled since then. It's been great.
Is this hall monitor going to let Catholic Ink cook happen? Listen, we'll get to Catholic Ink. There's a serious discussion to be had about Catholic Ink and what that can do to the soul, because at some point you got to put food on the table. So if your job is Catholicism, you might make some concessions here and there to keep the food coming to the table. And I think that is a serious problem with Catholic Ink, if you want to call it that. But really, any business that involves ideology can become this. I mean, really, any business with ideology involved can become the same as Catholic Ink sometimes gets into.
That's what politics is. I mean, I work in
Right.
politics all the time. All they do is compromise on what they actually believe because they are afraid they won't get elected, or some donor has this amount of money and they won't give it to you if you support this thing. I mean, it's a huge thing in politics, even not just at the national level. And it's the same in like any major industry. And unfortunately, it's affected. There's so much money involved at the higher levels. I mean, if you look through like the financial reports for certain charities and, look at some of the stuff like that, which is all publicly available, by the way.
It has to be. It's a 501c or 503c, whatever one it is.
501c3.
501c3. That's right.
Then they have 501c4s, which is lobbying groups, which they don't actually use a lot of money for lobbying, but they still have them. All that money is publicly available. You can track it if you want, but like once you have that large amount of cash flow going in from those donor dollars, you're going to be beholden to those donor dollars. So there's a pretty good argument to be made that groups like the pro-life movement are in a way perversely incentivized to allow abortion to continue to happen because they will lose that cash flow if it stops, which is why you see a lot of these groups. I mean, I work in politics. I will tell you, we never get, I'm in a battleground state. I work in politics. We never get abortion groups coming in, pro-life groups. We'll get the anti-aborts coming in, but we will never get pro-life groups. And it's just sad, but they have this perverse incentive. So
it's a wedge issue. It's kind of like going the other way with a left-wing or left-leaning group. Like they want to get close to the edge of what's fully available, but they don't want to actually touch it, because once they get their fully available on-demand abortion scheme going, then there's nothing to politic on when it comes to that issue. And the same danger is available to those on the right side of history, the ones that want to save the babies, because if you ever get fully banned abortions, your organization is gonzo.
Yeah. And it's a problem with the conservative faction in America just in general, because just ideologically, we are very weak on what we actually stand for. It's more of an anti-party than an actual party. And that's, I mean, like the idea that we identify as like conservatives, right? That basically means we're conserving the status quo. The Conservative Party is always the party of the status quo. And since the status quo is constantly moving left, you're just slow leftism at the end of the day.
That's what conservation is. What you want to go is full traditionalism, where you're going back to the roots, not conserving what's already there.
Yeah, exactly.
You have like these, you have like really, there's like 4 phases you could be in. You can be in the progressivism, which is what we're kind of in right now, but we're slowing down a little bit. You could be in libertarianism, which is like peeling away every layer of regulation you could have. You could have conservatism, which is like, okay, what's the status quo? We're going to keep that. Or you can have return to tradition or traditionalism, which is like, or some people try to say it's fundamentalism, but I don't think that's really the same thing. But traditionalism is to take us back to our roots, like the Constitution or like the Roman Empire kind of stuff, Christendom. People want to go back to Christendom. It's trying to take back what's been lost. So you can either go
Exactly.
one way or the other. You're either going further to the progressive area, you're going libertarian where you're opening up everything, you're conserving, or you're kind of crunching in, or you're going back. Like you pick one. Which one is it?
Yeah. Yeah, I think if you want a movement like the pro-life movement to be successful, there is an argument that you do need to get more men involved in it.
Oh yeah.
And I know they don't like that argument because they think it should be women leading it all the way. But the problem with that is you get these people who will be a little bit too charitable, if that makes sense. A little bit too. It's not like the real sense of charitable because you can't have too much real charity, but it's like the fake niceness.
It's the niceness. It's where you're tolerating something you don't agree with.
Yeah, and you just need some guys to get in there and be like, no, we're not tolerating with that. You just need some stubbornness, and stubbornness is it's looked down upon, but it's actually a very good trait if you're being stubbornly good, you know?
Yeah. Hey, there's an interesting theory. I read it have you ever read Michael Crichton books?
No.
So there's a Michael Crichton book. I can't necessarily recommend it. It's okay. But the hypothesis presented in it is called I think it's called the single man hypothesis, where it's like a married man, a single man, a married woman, or a single woman, and who's going to make the right decision in a life or death scenario, who's going to prevent the mass casualty from happening. And the percentages, and I don't know if this was a real statistic, but I bought it because it sounded legit. It was 75% of the time, the single man on his own is going to make the right decision to save the most people.
Sounds about right.
And so I think that actually is a good advocacy for priests to remain celibate and be single.
That is, yeah. I mean, that's a good turnover. And also, you need to stop gatekeeping these movements from young men. And it's a lot of it's not like they're actively kicking out young men as much as they're just making them so cringe and effeminate that men just don't want to participate. And I think that's a lot of it. I mean, that's why guys don't get involved in Boy Scouts anymore. I'm an Eagle Scout. That's Majorian lore. And guys don't get involved with Boy Scouts anymore because it used to challenge them, you know? It used to, you would send these guys out into the woods and you'd be like, hey, figure out what to do, give them some skills, teach them how to light fires and, whittle sticks and stuff. And
I did Boy Scouts. I never made it to Eagle.
And
I
now
left in early high school or something. I don't know. I was close, but didn't finish.
And now that they've got the girls involved and you no longer have those male only spaces with male
Men,
bonding.
Yeah.
And it's kind of gay. And I totally get why guys I wouldn't have my if I had a son, I wouldn't let him do Boy Scouts.
Troops of St. George represent.
Just sad because I
was
an Eagle Scout. Yeah, I know.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Yeah. Which I have had my son do. My oldest, he's 8, and he's done Troops of St. George for about 2 years now. It's been very good because it's all men. I don't think there's any. Yeah, there's no moms there. It's all men. So it's prayer. It's not conservative, traditional male things that will help you life skills. Carving, drilling, just any skill that a boy should learn at some point is taught in this group, and it's very good.
Yeah, I mean, we need more of those alternatives. We need people actually do them, actually participate. Yeah.
But yeah, the thing is, I think the crack started to show with Boy Scouts actually before they allowed girls in. I think it started when they started having women troop leaders.
That was part of it. They let women troop leaders come in,
because the men stopped volunteering. That was a big issue. Men, you need to step up. This is the one thing I will say: if you want to keep your male only things, you have to step up as a man. You can't let your wife jump in and do the male activities with your boys.
Yeah, I mean, the idea of a soccer mom is abhorrent. All right, take your kid to soccer, guys. Yeah. Come on.
Yeah, men, you need to take your kid if you can. Obviously, if you have a job that prevents you from doing that. I get it
if you have a job, but it's sports. it's a male thing. Do the male things with your son. I mean,
Get off
great
off
bonding.
your phone, take your kid to the sports practice, coach the sports practice. How about that? Step up. That's what I do. I'm a terrible sideliner because I'm just sitting there thinking about what I could do better than the coach. So I just always get involved. Literally within one practice or two practices, the coach is like, all right, buddy, get over here, help me out. And I'm like, yes, I will help you out because I think I could do a better job.
Yeah, my dad always coached my sports teams growing up. He would always, I mean, he was involved in the Boy Scouts too. Give him props for that. I think it's definitely the right thing to do is get involved with that stuff. And it's good bonding with your kid, you know?
Oh, yeah. That's what I really appreciate about the Troops of St. George, at least the group that I've been involved with, is there's really no dads on the sidelines. They are all doing something to help with the kids. And most of us have multiple boys. So it's like, it's not like you got one dad with one boy. It's like, no, I got like 4 boys here. So you help me with these boys. I'll help you with those boys. You know, it's a big group. And I do really appreciate that. And it's like what Boy Scouts was supposed to be when I was growing up.
Yeah.
I forget. Are you early 20s, mid 20s, or late 20s?
I'm sadly in my mid 20s now.
Okay.
Yeah. I was very depressed when I turned 25. I was like, it's basically over, guys. I've got like 5 years left, and then I'm an unk.
Then you're an
cooked.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought unk was the 40 plus because, you know, Jason and I are about a decade apart.
I don't know. I mean, at this point, they're stretching it out. I've been called an unk.
Who was calling you an unk?
These Gen Alpha guys. I love them. I love them to death.
I think 1 or 2 of my kids are technically Gen Alpha.
And they're you think the Zoomers are crazy. They're the best. I love them.
The Gen Alpha. Well, they'd be the older Gen Alphas. Mine would be on the lower end of the Gen Alphas.
Yeah.
So do you actually like watching sports, or are you not really a sports fan? I know you got the Lions flag, but you know, I got some Lions apparel somewhere in my house too, and I don't ever wear it.
So I am like the biggest, and like a lot of people on my Twitter don't know this because they weren't following me during like the NFL season last year, but I am like the biggest Detroit Lions fan. I like the NFL a lot. I've watched the NFL. I grew up watching it. I think a lot of the arguments against watching sports are kind of lame because, like, yeah, it's a waste of time. I'll concede that. There are a lot of things. There are a lot of, yeah, Grok did say I was a Packers fan, which
that's
is
hilarious.
That's why you don't trust AI, because that's just ridiculous. But
no, we bleed Honolulu blue up in here.
100%. There's a lot of,
what a dumb name for that color.
Yeah. There's a lot of worse things you could be watching. I mean, you could be watching. I was about to do a dig there. I decided to hold my tongue. But you could be watching Crash
Cannon.
No, I was thinking you could be watching Religious Hippie. But sorry. There's a lot of worse things you could be watching, or just doing with your time. Especially if it's a way to like bond with your family. I don't see how it's that bad. I mean, I honestly think there's a lot of things we waste our time with these days, and sports isn't the worst of it. Is it the best thing? Should you be like devoting all your life to, you know, knowing your fantasy football team stats versus knowing like verses in the Bible? Probably not. But who knows?
That's an amazing comparison.
He is kind of like Milo.
Well, minus all the
gay stuff.
Exactly. I was trying to figure out a creative way to say that, but you just, yep, exactly.
Yeah.
I would argue though that unlike Milo, Anthony's not the one who's like digging up personal info and posting it for the world to see, which I've seen Milo do plenty of times.
Yeah,
he does. That's one of his like. It's one of like it. I've heard multiple people say, if Milo existed in I don't know, group chat or Discord server, they would leave because they'd be worried he would just share everything.
Yeah. Anthony Anthony does like share everything, but like it's
on
not like
locals
intentional.
especially.
It's not intentional.
On locals especially.
Yeah, he doesn't. It's not out of malice, you know.
So like I technically I was thinking about this the other day. I mean, my first name is on my Twitter account, but like my last name's not. I wonder how anonymous I really am, though. Probably not that much.
Yeah, I mean, I think in this age, they can just take your face and reverse image search and probably find something.
Good luck.
For me, like it'd be a little bit hard because I didn't have the mustache, or I was overweight, so like I've had such a dramatic difference in my face in probably the last like 4 years that like I feel like it wouldn't help that much. But I could probably find myself. I have found myself just as a challenge.
The couple times I Googled myself, I mean, I had to go through like 15, 20 pages of Google to find me.
Well, you got a pretty common name. My name is less common.
the only other Milo Yiannopoulos out there. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. There's like 2 of them. It's Milo and then no.
I'm laughing at Tappy.
If your reverse image machine gets Tim Gordon, he's his oldest child. No. Yeah, I doubt that. I think you said before that either of your parents are Catholic, or are they?
No. So my dad was a cradle, but he left to marry my mom, which is just a generational L, and I keep roasting him for it. But no, yeah, neither of my parents. No one in my entire family is Catholic except for my grandfather.
You know what's funny is you see in a lot of cases, I don't know what happened with the Boomer and Gen X generation, but in most generations prior, if a man and a woman got married, they followed the man's religion. And then the last 2 generations, that like totally flipped.
Feminism.
Yeah, it was feminism. You think that was just
probably feminism. Yeah.
Because nobody wants to be labeled an anti-feminist.
I think the boomers got hit by like I give boomers a lot of crap. But I think they probably got hit by the feminist Kool-Aid more than any other generation. So I think that's probably some of it.
Do you think that's why the Gen X group is kind of a mixed bag with that stuff? Because they were raised by boomers?
Yeah. I mean, my parents are boomers.
I mean, my dad is a boomer and my mom's Gen X. I got 2 Gen X sisters, so whatever.
So like it's a mixed bag. I mean, like you get some very I say this often. I think boomer is more of a mindset than it is like a set age.
Now you're sounding like those people who say white is a mindset.
True.
I mean, that sounds almost the same thing, except you're talking like an age thing. I don't know. I will say this. I don't think, well, my generation is probably not great either. Millennials are like that cutting edge of right before Gen Z, where we're starting to head the right direction. And then Gen Z is just a total fork in the right direction. Or they're going like rainbow hair with a mohawk, and you don't know whether they're a man or a woman. And
yeah, I find
it's like one or the other. You guys have the most extreme dichotomy with that.
I find with millennials, it's like they've got, in general, it's like they're starting to get it a little bit, but they're just all a little gay. And then like Gen Z, you really have a dichotomy in Gen Z where like if it's a Gen Z male, he's probably like incredibly based. And then if it's a Gen Z female, they're probably identify as a lesbian because they have daddy issues. That's pretty much how it goes. It's like, it's such a crazy, if you look at the data around it, there is such a crazy difference between the views in Gen Z males and Gen Z women, which probably contributes to why dating is so like terrible.
Well, but Gen Z, I will give credit to the Gen Z women a little bit, only because it's like the first generation where you see a move away from the pill.
Oh yeah,
which I give a lot of credit to them for learning that that's a bad choice, whether or not they're doing it for the right reasons or not. Whether it's like a self-care thing or whether it's like, oh, this is bad for me.
They finally realized
spiritually.
I think they finally realized it makes them fat, and they just decided to stop.
I mean, definitely doesn't do it to all of them, but it does it to a lot of them.
They hit the wall, yeah.
Like that. Sad. That I mean, really, because you're killing the natural cycle of the body. and so it doesn't shed it. Like if you have a problematic phase of your cycle as a woman and you're just constantly in it, you're just going to gain weight because you're never getting out of that problematic portion of your cycle.
Yeah, that's definitely
I read a book, believe it or not. It's called This Is Your Brain on Birth Control. It's written by a woman. She's more of a secular than a religious person talking about it, but she's very scientific and psychological about how she analyzes it. And actually, when you get down to the nitty gritty of it, it actually affects the men too. So if you work with women on the pill, it affects your testosterone.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's stuff with like, birth control getting into the water supply. I mean, like Gen Z's kind of cooked with the testosterone stuff. That's our only problem. And just follow my page. I help. I give what supplements you should be taking, but it's rough out there, and it's rough when like a 60-year-old boomer has more testosterone than like a young active 20-year-old male. We just kind of got cooked by our moms or whoever using birth control, or just being exposed to it in the environment.
No, being exposed to it at all will actually lower. Like if you're around your mom and she's taking birth control, you are lowering your testosterone. So there you go. That's the only reason you need to leave the house, boys. Just kidding. But the other side of that coin, actually, it was funny. I was reading, there's like a certain fish that has to swim upriver for mating, I think. It's like in California area or something. At one point, there were so many people taking steroids that the fish started swimming more and more inland because they were getting the steroids in the water. Or it was human growth hormone. That's what it was.
HGH.
Yeah, it's like straight up human growth hormone.
I was like, fish with like the HGH gut, where it just like bloats up. Those bloated abs, the Joe Rogan abs.
Yeah, Joe Rogan fish.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, they get to where they're mating and they're all smoking weed. No. So here's a question for you. This is something that I think pretty much died with my generation, but it's making a comeback with your guys's, is like cigar smoking. Where did that like appeal come from? Just the loss of it, kind of like the regaining traditionalism, or what?
I think I don't think it's exclusive to cigars. I think all just nicotine. Like, I think there's just been it's probably TikTok. TikTok has like, you just see so many memes. Like, maybe it's because people send them to me, but I see a billion memes. I see probably 20, 30 memes a week of like white monster, black coffee, and a cigarette in some combination, some kind of passion. I think, Gen Z's just, the men have just gone full stimulant, or they'll vape, which is gay. But like the ones that didn't vape, they will usually, rip a dart every once in a while. I don't know about the cigar stuff. I might catch some flack for this. I think a lot of the cigar stuff's kind of a LARP.
You think so?
Trying to seem a little bit more masculine than you actually are. And I'll have a cigar, like once or twice a year. I'm not super into it. And I don't think it's always a LARP.
I think it's a LARP when you're using it to gain like followers, like visible. It's like if you post things specifically to target a specific audience.
Yeah. Like I'll see
in order to grow your account. That's LARPing, in my opinion.
I'll see some of the like the Catholic e-boys like just butcher smoking a cigar to try and look cool. And that is a LARP. I mean,
there's a reason I never post myself smoking a cigar online. Okay. I probably don't look that cool, and I don't do it very often.
The most painful part, and there were many painful parts of that Pints with Pinus Voice of Reason video, but the most painful part was watching him try and smoke that cigar. That was a crime. There's many crimes committed there.
With the amount of editing that goes on behind the scenes with like more of your professional YouTube channels, you could edit some of that stuff out so it doesn't make your guests look like they don't know what they're doing. You know what I mean? Like, you got 3 hours of content. You don't have to show every puff of smoke. You don't have to show every single angle all the time. If a guy fails at doing the cigar, you really want to put your guest on blast. Editing can take care of that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Or he can just refuse the cigar, you know, doesn't
Well,
have to
true.
smoke
Fair
it.
enough.
Like,
I mean, if you don't know what you're doing, at least admit it, you know?
yeah,
And I don't know if he does or not. Maybe it was just he was on camera and he was like, oh, shoot, what
he was
am I?
nervous. I don't
He
know.
got too nervous, which I'll admit, I've been nervous on camera before it happens. Everybody has a limit to what they can handle before they get embarrassed.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I'm sure when Majorian puts up 450 pounds and he's like, your turn, I'm going to be like, nope, turn the cameras off. We're going to lower this weight down a little bit.
I'm a good trainer. Don't worry. I wouldn't do that to you.
If you were such a good trainer, you'd have sent me my lesson plan by now.
Oh, damn, I forgot.
Cooked. No, I'm just kidding.
I got cooked. No, I should do that. Remind me tomorrow.
Yeah, you got it.
That's embarrassing.
Yeah, I was like,
man.
oh, he must have forgot. Oh well.
Definitely. I've been too busy roasting the e-girls, I guess.
So did you ever take physical training classes, or like how did you end up getting involved with training and physical fitness?
Long story short, I'm autistic. And I decided to hyperfixate on it. No, so I first got involved with lifting probably, I did a little bit of lifting in high school. I ran cross country and track in high school. Like a little, like I would bench like once a month or something. And I was absolutely terrible at both lifting and running. But when I went to college, I was too slow to run in college, and I went to a pretty big college. So I didn't run, I didn't do anything. So I gained a decent amount of weight, and I was like, all right, I don't want to look like this.
You're like the freshman 15. Nah, the freshman 50. No.
Yeah, I mean, it was a decent amount of weight. So I got into lifting then, and man, I look back sometimes at like what I was doing when I first started, and it was so bad. It was so like I was
form wise, or too much or too little.
Form, programming, everything was terrible. I would always skip leg day. I would never train legs. If I trained legs, it would just be me deadlifting. That would be my leg day. Which I don't know if you know anything about deadlifting. It's not really a leg exercise. It's more of a back.
It's a full body. It's a full body with back primarily.
Yeah.
Because your arms are involved. No, deadlifts with the hands down, right?
Yeah. So it's mainly a back movement, but you have some you'll get your hip flexors involved and stuff like that. But it's mainly a back movement. I would do that on my leg day. That would be my leg day. I would bench. I mean, I remember running a program. It's called like the Smolov Junior program, which is like, it's a Soviet era powerlifting program, and it was originally designed for squats, to like blow up your squat. But I did it for bench press, and I would be benching 4 times a week. I was just really obsessed with getting good bench press, and surprisingly, I never really got a big bench press until I actually decided to like lock in and learn from some like high level naturals. And then once I learned kind of what was going on from there, that's when I actually, like, I've made more progress probably in the last 2.5 years than the previous like 4 before that. Because like once you learn how to actually progress in your programming and training, it's a lot easier. There's that initial learning curve. Yeah, posterior chain. That was the word I was looking for. Once you get past, there's a high skill ceiling to lifting. Diet is actually, I say this all the time, diet is actually way easier conceptually than lifting. And it's easier to dial in and stick to. I think people have more trouble with it initially, but it is in the long run less complicated. There's just less variables involved. It's just calories in, calories out at the end of the day with diet. Lifting, you have to manipulate volume, you have progressions. It's a lot.
Do you ever compete in one of those lifting competitions?
No. I am very much not a power lifter. I'm definitely more of a bodybuilder, and I also don't compete in that. I'm open to it in the future. But
I was just gonna
Still
say,
locking
I'm
in.
not gonna tell you which state or where, but one of my brother-in-laws actually got into powerlifting so much that he broke the state record. So he did do that, and one of the 50 states. I'm not gonna tell you which one.
Yeah, I've just never been super into powerlifting, just because it's not really. I don't like. So I used to love bench press. I used to love deadlifting, and I tolerated the squat. But I haven't in the past probably like 2 years haven't done any of those, which I know is blasphemy. But like I'll do like variations of each, but like I don't actually train the big three because you don't really need to. I train for
I hate
hypertrophy.
push-ups,
I love push-ups.
but actually, I love push-ups, but I hate the way my wrists feel when I do push-ups.
Yeah, there's some people they need to have a progression into push-ups.
Yeah,
Straps and stuff.
my wrists like immediately start to hurt. It's not even like my chest or my shoulders. My wrists just hurt when I do push-ups. And so like when I get a program with push-ups in it, I just cringe, I grit my teeth and I go through it, but I hate it. It sucks.
You might have to invest in some wrist wraps.
Yeah, I mean, I'm open to it. That's for sure. I've used different things that have been a little bit better than just straight up push-ups, but man, I cannot. Like, I don't know what it is about my wrists, but I cannot do the push-ups without hurting.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so let's get into some other stuff. All right, we've kind of dodged this question the whole time. What was going through your mind before you posted Selfie Gate and then went to bed?
Okay.
Because I've done those tweets before. You're like, who cares? Nobody's gonna look at this. Post, go to bed, and then you wake up 1,000 likes. You're like, what the heck?
Yeah. So I think I saw the picture, right? So Selfie Gate. I don't know if y'all know. It's the picture.
Picture.
You should probably pull up the picture.
I'll pull up the picture. That's fine. We'll pull it up.
When I saw that picture, I've said
have you addressed it yet on any of the podcasts?
I think I briefly mentioned it on Latin Slobs, but I didn't really go in depth because I wasn't really doing podcasts until like probably a month later.
So I think the best take on your take was probably Thursday's take, and I think he encapsulated what you were saying.
Yeah, I mean he did a pretty good job. I did talk about it on AB when we were on trivia. That was
okay. That's right. We did.
That was the first time I talked about it. And even then, I probably wasn't super organized in my thoughts. I think I've thought about it a lot more now.
Yeah.
Especially because it's been a minute. But I remember. I mean, I said earlier on this.
Sure this is sized right.
I've said earlier on this very episode that my Twitter is just a stream of my consciousness, right? So sometimes I'll just tweet my thoughts. And I saw that tweet. I saw that picture. So, this picture right here. I thought I saw this picture and I was like, yeah, that looks pretty gay. And that was like my exact thought. It was just that looks pretty gay. And then I was like, that reminds me of when I was a Protestant, how like the vibes of like a Protestant youth group. And then I saw like some of the people in the picture who are heavily involved, who are, I would call more, and again, I'm speaking for myself, I'm not speaking for Chris here. I would call more nefarious actors, particularly towards young men in the sphere. And I saw that and I was like, yeah, this is kind of stuff that's keeping young guys out of the church, by the way. And then I tweeted that, thought like, oh yeah, I'll probably get like 20 likes, something like that. And then I wake up the next day and I don't look at my phone. I just go to the gym, it's leg day, it's Saturday, and I was doing my deadlifts and like, I see like, I just constantly getting notifications on Twitter. And I guess some account, I think it was Metatomist, like asked me what I meant by this.
He was one of them. Yeah.
Yeah. And and then I was like, man, I'm gonna get cooked for this. So I was like, I think there's an intuitive answer when people see this kind of picture that it just feels inauthentic. And I don't know these people like very well at all. I don't know them that well, but it just feels inauthentic. Just the picture. It seems like it's like a branding thing, like all these influencers coming together to, you know, improve their image. And it just kind of feels shallow and performative. And that's kind of the vibe I was getting. And a lot of people, I had a ton of people, you know, reach out in support of me, saying like, yeah, we get the same kind of vibe.
139 bookmarks.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is like the funniest statistics. It's like, are you bookmarking it because you want to come back because you like it? Or are you bookmarking it to roast me later? Which one is it?
Yeah, I think it was the roast. To be honest, I got ratioed pretty hard. Yeah, it was, I mean, 370,000 views on a tweet from like I think I was like a 200 follower account at the time. Kind of crazy. But it was just like, and I elaborated on a little bit more in like my follow-up tweets, and then some of the like the quote tweets that were cooking me. And I basically just saying that it feels it's more of like a broader criticism of influencer culture. I think that gatekeeps and alienates young men, and it's really a problem. I mean, you'll notice most of these people who are in this photo are all from Instagram primarily. That's their primary platform.
Not Cameron.
Cameron is, I think, the only exception to that. But pretty much everybody else.
He's primarily YouTube, right?
Yeah, I think so. But pretty much everybody else primarily got their following through Instagram. And I
actually, you know what's funny? You do say that, but do you know where? And I'm pretty sure about this, but do you know where Amber Rose got most of her following?
TikTok.
No, well, it was because she got canceled off TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
She got removed for talking about the rosary of all things.
Yeah.
Like, how wild is that? Like, why would TikTok remove somebody talking about the rosary?
Yeah, I don't know.
It was kind of weird.
Yeah, I think so. Like, you have all these people, and almost all of them are Instagram people, and I think that's not a coincidence.
Right.
I think Instagram is an aesthetics first platform. It's all about image,
it is
brand, ring lights kind of stuff. It's the curated lifestyle of being a Catholic, and I don't. Yeah, the ring light. I mean, that's what it is. So it's like the perfect medium.
It's crazy. Like my face is just gone.
Yeah, it's like the perfect medium for like these people who are more, I don't want to say image focused, but image focused, content light to peddle their ideas. Where if you like compare it to like Twitter, you post cringe on Twitter, like you're going to get cooked. You post cringe on Instagram, people probably won't see it. Twitter, you have to actually like.
Hey, I will say this. I don't think you're putting the motives on them. I think what you're saying essentially is that the image makes it look that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're saying that particular, because of what, at least because of the idea that you have about the figure they're all surrounded with. Does that make sense? Am I saying that right way?
Yes.
Because like there is a certain aesthetic to what Lila Rose puts out. There's a certain aesthetic to it. And she does have a pattern. And I've criticized some of the things she's put out before, because I do think she doesn't spend much time criticizing women. But
absolutely not.
I think that's one of her things. It's something she could work on, honestly, because the way that she goes about it is like, it's men's fault. They need to fix this. But then who's getting the abortions? It's single women.
Yeah. And we can't, do anything.
And so
they're not accountable for their actions.
Maybe this would be a good time to bring up Thursday's comment on this, because I think it really kind of encapsulates what you were doing with this tweet. Are you okay with that?
Oh yeah. I mean, the main thing is it's an optics thing, and that's my issue. Is is
How
you're
do
gonna
you
have a
view
boomer
quote
moment here.
tweets? How do you view
Yeah.
quote tweets from here?
You do view post engagements.
Engagements. Okay. All right, there we go. I was like, because I know how to do it on my phone. I just click on the retweet button and it shows me all the retweets.
Or it's to
Why is
scroll
he
through
on?
a lot of quotes.
Yeah, it's gonna take me a minute. Anyway, I do think, who is that? Luke. Oh, okay. Thought it was Thursday. Okay, go ahead. Keep talking.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
and
like
then Franco did post there was another different picture, but
yeah, so he posted that.
the only two people in this picture that I've ever talked to, the only people in this picture I've ever talked to, for the record, I've talked to Cameron and I've talked to Amber Rose. I don't know anybody else in this picture.
So I will say Franco posted that like a week later. He was milking it again, and I kind of called him out for that
He
because I
was
was like, dude,
it.
it's been a week, let it die. But it's an optics thing. That is the issue here, and it doesn't look good. And I think Thursday gets into it pretty well.
I'm trying
in
to
his
find
posts.
him. There's
But
so many quote tweets. Oh, here we go. All right, here we go. This was Thursday's take, and you want me to just read it?
You can, yeah, sure.
All right, I'm just gonna read it then. Okay, so this is Thursday, also known as Josiah, depending on which program he's on or why. It says, I hate to be that guy, but I think he's got something of a point. He's not referring to currently Catholic young men. He's referring to young men who are currently not Catholic, which I do think that was what you're going for, because the Protestant youth groups do look a lot like that.
I'll clarify this. I am talking about the people who are considering Catholicism. They see this picture and they're like, no, I'm going Orthodoxy. Because I totally.
Or the Ortho bros have a totally different aesthetic.
I totally get that, because like the Ortho bros, they have Father Moses, this huge, massive guy. They have a bunch. It feels more masculine. Even like the guys in this picture, like the more masculine-ish guys in the picture, like Joe Gerald, the big Catholic lifter, he's like, he doesn't feel that masculine. It still feels like curated. It feels inauthentic. And I could just be reading into it. I think it might just be an optics thing.
Right. That's what I'm trying to say with Mr. Lepanto, because I have talked to this guy before. He's not in person, but over the internet. And, I'm not imparting any motives on these people. I agree with the aesthetics comment that when you post something like that, it almost lends itself to saying, okay, all the people in this picture agree on something. And whatever that is, it's up to the viewer to decide, or not. But anyway, I could hold Taffy accountable, but I am being held accountable, so I won't. Women can never be held accountable. That is sexist.
True.
Oh man. Okay, let me finish this now before I forget. All right. So he wrote, Lila Grace Rose constantly scolds men for this and that, or tells them to do better, but she never takes the same tone with women literally murdering children. Women who murder their children are poor victims of our big bad society. But men who are hesitant to get married because they constantly are bombarded with just how bad it can go, just need to get over it. And this is like the same thing. It's like when Trent Horn was debating with Pearl Davis. Okay, I think Trent Horn is a great apologist. I think he has some flaws, as we all do. But the thing that bothered me was when Pearl made good points that he could easily just say, yeah, we agree on this particular point. He instead kept saying men just need to get married. And it's like,
men just need to be better. Men just need to be better. Men just need to be better. Dude,
you should give her the easy win to help persuade her of your opinion. Like when you agree on something, you should always bridge that gap and then bring them to your side. All right, here we go. Hippie Religious says that men who smoke or use nicotine aren't ready for marriage because it's an addiction, while posting about how much caffeine she drinks without a hint of irony. I am actually interested. So I'm going to be interviewing her again sometime in the future. I want to ask her about the nicotine thing. So we'll get into that later. All right. It says, this is what we call the longhouse. When young male creators are ostensibly representing Gen Z men, don't defend them against these kinds of claims, even if they are specifically calling out the people making said claims, but just literally address the ideas and then go collaborate with the Longhouse. I think the Longhouse is like a pseudonym for Catholic Inc. That's my guess.
It's a pseudonym for like feminist occupied institutions.
Okay.
It's in reference to like a Native American longhouse. Because
Well, yeah, but what does that have to do with feminism?
Native American societies were matriarchal
Were they? I didn't know that.
in North America.
All of them?
Not all of them, but the
Okay.
reference to the longhouse is specifically towards a matriarchal Native American
Interesting.
society.
I didn't know that. Okay, so it says the optics of this situation are that even the creators and influencers supposedly reaching out to young Gen Z men don't have their backs, because when the Longhouse can offer them clout or exposure, they choose it over defending the aforementioned Gen Z men they allegedly care about. I'm not saying that the young male creators in the picture actually do not care, but in this case, they have appeared to not care because silent presumes assent. And I do agree with that sentiment.
I will say, I don't think their audience is as young and male as people may think either. I think
it's possible.
I think it might even have shifted over the past while, just because, they seem to have cozied up with this group. I think this was a start of a relationship at this April thing, and it's just the specific tribe he's referencing in Cahokia, I guess, was, I'm not a Native American lore expert. I'm just saying
Me either, but I do have,
that's where the reference comes from for the Longhouse. That's where
fair
it
enough.
comes from.
All right, so he continues on to say, though, I know Iron Inquisitor and Cameron Riker is what he's talking about here, are well-meaning good guys, and I don't think they did anything wrong, and I don't think it's wrong to think posts like the one I'm quote tweeting are an overreaction. So he's calling you out a little bit. However, I must, as someone with a lot in common with the Gen Z guys he's actually referring to, ask people mad about this post to please consider the optics and the implied messaging. So I think I know that Mr. Lepanto said he knows these guys. The implied messaging is what you're saying is the problem.
Yes, it's the implication. It's about the optics.
Yeah.
And like I never looked upon like Joe Jarrell or like Franco or Voice of Reason as like the guys representing me, because I thought they were kind of cringe. I'm not a nice guy, guys. Come on. But like I get the young guy who sees this picture and they're like, yeah, I'm not doing that, and that's kind of what I was getting at here. And like, you also have to realize, so like, yeah, there's this kind of deeper meaning, but also like it was just a tweet off rip. Like some people, they think that like when you tweet something,
you've thought about it a lot.
You've thought like this entire thing, like when Scotty Nodak got cooked.
The
like
Judas
2 weeks ago.
The Judas Nodak thing. Yeah.
Yeah. He got cooked a couple of weeks ago. He didn't have this like deep, like Machiavellian plan that he was going to write up this tweet to, roast the Novus Ordo. He was just tweeting for the boys. And like,
well, he also, like, to be fair, if you walk into a mass and you think it's one thing and it's another thing, as long as the mass hasn't started, no harm, no foul.
It's not a sin. Yeah. Right. I mean, it's
like walking ridiculous. Out of a mass in the middle of it, unless there's heresy going on, then walk out. Definitely walk out if there's heresy. But unless you walk out of a mass, middle of the mass, like, forget this. Like, those are two different things. But he realized, oh, this isn't what I thought it was. And if it's not a holy day or a Sunday, then sure, it's fine. He can go to another mass.
Yeah.
But yeah, the way he said it, it made it sound like he sat through long enough to realize I'm in the wrong place or something, and then did the Judas thing and walked out before supper was over. And he got a lot of flack for that. I do feel
almost as much as me for this selfie post.
Yeah. Well, let's finish it. Here we got 2 more paragraphs. It says, because honestly, as one of the young Gen Z guys who is conditioned to be constantly on edge and constantly aware of which creators and thinkers I can and can't trust, this stuff makes me trust all the male creators in the photo less. And maybe that's wrong, but received according to the mode of the receiver and all. Ignore me, tell me off, call me a hater. I don't care. I just needed to put the perspective of the young men he is actually referring to out there.
And I will say, since this photo has come out, I feel like I have been repeatedly, over and over again, proven correct in my initial justification just by some of the actions of some of the individuals in this photo. Now, again, I don't even, like, even when I post this photo, I didn't know everybody in this photo. If you asked me to name every single person in this photo, probably would still fail to this day. Though I do probably know about 80. I know more of them now than I did back then. But the more I have
I said I
learned-
only knew who two of them were. I do know who Lila Grace is, or Lila Rose, not Lila Grace, Lila Rose, and I know who Voice of Reason is. But that's because of the infamous nature of them. Is that the right word? Like where they're doing things that you're not necessarily a fan of.
Yeah, the more I have learned of most of these individuals, the more I have been felt reinforced in my belief. And like you could say, you know, that's just confirmation bias or whatever. You can say that. I mean, you can just look at the last probably 3 weeks of the Voice of Reason stuff. I mean, there's been a different thing every week.
I will say this: if you're going to criticize somebody, be ready to have like get comments thrown back at you first off, because most of the time that's going to happen. I fully expect at least a couple people in the Discord server to roast me for something stupid I said during this podcast. That's fine.
They can roast me.
You guys should. You guys should roast me if I said anything stupid. In fact, roast me so hard I get more engagement out of it. That would be great.
Yeah, I roast myself. I mean,
oh man, but what I will say is this: Voice of Reason was informed that his Taylor Marshall take on one of his shorts was what's the right word? It didn't look good, right? When you're criticizing somebody, you call them garbage. You're not attacking any of their opinions. You're just calling somebody garbage, and we're all made in God's image, so none of us are garbage. And I think when he was kindly told that by a mutual friend of ours, he did pull that short down. Although the short keeps coming back because Anthony won't let it go. But
I mean, he also posted something recently talking about how certain individuals are not Catholic.
That was Pints with Aquinas, or are you thinking of something else?
No, there was something else. There was like a Q&A. This was probably in the last week where he is.
Was it the one about Fuentes?
I actually posted it today. I posted a clip of it today. And it gives a little hypocritical. I've heard some things. I won't speak about it yet because I can't substantiate anything, but I'm holding my judgment right now. I'm not going to say anything that I can't substantiate, but I dislike, and I'm going to condemn this behavior of people calling out other people and labeling them not Catholic. You are not the Pope. You are not a bishop. You do not have the authority to call someone not Catholic. So stop doing it.
Fraternal correction does not equal excommunication.
Yeah.
Those are two completely different things. And really, good fraternal correction occurs initially behind the scenes.
And just because you're a self-taught apologist from the school of Michael Lofton does not make you have the authority to say that like one of the most influential, Catholic YouTubers is garbage. Like, what is that?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
That was really ill-advised to do that. Like, I get people have energy and they rip off just absolutely terrible takes.
I'm terrible.
But why would you clip that unless you're engagement farming?
Clip that. I mean, he also said the SSPX was not Catholic in like the same clip, right? I mean,
I think that was part of it. Yeah. I guess the thing for me is, engagement farming. Like, I get, what my criticism of that photo that you posted would be along the lines of everybody in that photo was trying to get more attention because it was posted that way. If it was just a group of friends hanging out, like when I hang out with my friends and I take a group photo, I don't usually post them on the internet.
Yeah. I don't think I ever post pictures. I mean, I never post pictures of myself anyways.
Fair, even but that the intention of a photo like that is to be like, okay, we all know each other and you should know everybody that I know. That's the intention of a photo like that.
It feels kind of like a flex.
Kind of. Yeah, kind of. And I don't know if they see it that way or not, but I don't know. You know what does crack me up about Fuentes is I recently discovered he's a flat out Novus Ordo Catholic. Like, he's not even a traditionalist in the sense of going to the TLM.
He's a big Novus Ordo guy.
So if anything, if I was a Novus Ordo influencer trying to build up like Gen Z's love for the Novus Ordo, I'd be propping somebody like him up.
Listen,
know,
the
whatever.
groypers are a powerful tool.
I know,
right?
that's what I'm saying.
And
Like,
a lot of them are my boys, and I love the groypers. The groypers love Majorian. We get along very well, and like you can choose to spit on young men, or you can choose to accept them, and that's really your two options.
I had a
So,
bunch of
choose
groypers come
wisely.
at me one time, but in the end, they all ended up following my account because I just trolled them.
Yeah. We look, the thing about Gen Z is, man, we respect a good troll. If you troll me well, I respect it.
So there was an interesting question presented, and I'm not going to name either of the accounts, but I'm sure you can figure out who I'm talking about really quickly here. There was somebody who complained that when they would post, it wasn't funny, but when somebody else posted, it was. And I'm just looking at it like it's all about intent. Like, it only takes a few tweets for somebody to read your intent. If you have a pattern that is easily able to be recognized in the way that you tweet or message or post to social media, it doesn't take very long for people to start to read what that means. So like when somebody's constantly ragging on people who attend the traditional Latin Mass over and over and over again, receiving the same flack every time they do it, either you're going after negative attention, which that's a psychological thing, you need to get that figured out, or you actually don't like the TLM.
Yeah, you can only irony post so much until
Right.
it becomes real, you know?
Right. So Catholic Inc., it's like the people that are into Catholicism as a business.
It's that photo.
It can be used. It can be used in for good, or it can be used for bad, and it all depends on what money is influencing the decisions being made.
It's not like an official.
No, it's
like,
not a real.
label.
It's not a real company.
I would say most of the people in the photo would qualify. Most of the Catholic Answers crowd would qualify. Certain larger influencers would qualify.
Let me just qualify it this way: if your main income is based on Catholicism, you're at least Catholic business.
Yeah,
there is such thing as Catholic business, and that doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just flat out doesn't. What it means is that your job, your income is based on your faith.
Mm-hmm.
And that means that money could drive some of your faith decisions. You have to be very careful with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, and yes, I know I'm in a group with not all of the creators. I don't think some of them are in there, but I also don't know most of them.
Catholic Inc. refers to a very specific group of creators. It is a term made by
screenshotted
by trads or whatever.
What is he talking about?
I don't even know. He's talking about my hand. It refers to a very specific group of creators. All right. And it is not just any group of content creators. And I will
preface this right now. I personally, the ones that I know in the photo, I am not saying they are bad people, flat out. That's not what I'm saying at all. So if anybody's getting that off of me, for the record, I've interviewed some of the people one of the people in that photo. I don't personally have an issue with them, but I understand the optics that Majorian is pointing to.
Yeah. Like I've said this a couple times.
And again,
I have very different.
I'm not the only person who thought that. Just I'm highlighting Thursday and you can't see it. Josiah posted about it too. So
yeah, I have very different opinions than Chris on these people, whether they're good people.
And Majorian can vouch. Like Majorian can vouch. How many times have I come at you in the DMs?
Yeah.
How many times have I come at you in the DMs?
Yes, and I will say, I think some of it is you just don't know me yet. You don't know. You can't determine when I'm being serious and when I'm not. But it's just don't put any blame on Chris for the crazy stuff I say, and also
no, definitely do. You should cancel me for having Majorian on this podcast. Do it.
And
Haley, I'm looking at you. Cancel me.
I'm cool with that. I mean, wouldn't be the first time I got someone canceled. So, yeah, no, I mean, I definitely probably have some different opinions on those people, probably just based on my interactions with.
Well, to be
some of
fair,
them,
our
so,
interactions with them are very different.
yeah.
I've talked to some of them. You got blocked by them.
Yeah.
That's going to influence at least a little bit how
Oh,
you
yeah.
feel about people. Like if I got blocked by half the people in that photo, I probably would be a little bit frustrated as well.
Yeah. And no, I was going to say,
I would actually say, if anybody in that photo watches this, I think it'd be worthwhile for you guys to have a conversation with Majorian.
Please, I would be happy to.
Because you could either dispel it completely, and maybe he would have some different opinions about you. And maybe you would get different opinions about him.
I'm always willing to talk to anyone.
I am a complete anti-gatekeeper. I'm not going to say no, like specific people can't come on my podcast. I mean, there are people that I would never host on my podcast, but that's for completely different reasons than we had a disagreement on Twitter.
Yeah. Talk to me.
Like, for example, I will never host a single person who works for the Babylon Bee on this podcast.
Base.
Period.
As you should.
That is a fact. I will not host somebody who works for that company. That's a different conversation that will not happen on this podcast. But they are not invited.
Good take, Chris. I approve. The Zoomers approve of that one.
Another news. Haley's now going to cancel the show I'm doing with her because, no, I'm just kidding. Although Haley's coming on later, so she's going to roast Majorian the whole podcast, and then I'm going to hit her with what's the phrase where it says women can't teach? Like, is it Timothy 2:12 or something?
Yeah, Timothy 2:12. Iconic.
Just like halfway through her speech, just hit the mute button. No, I think that's actually what Dudro Comical. Have you ever listened to that guy? He posted a video of them literally doing like the Timothy 2:12 as a joke. I mean, it was pretty funny.
I've gotten blocked so many times for using Timothy 2:12. So, I mean,
do you have any particular opinion about Timothy 2:12? Do you think it means that women can't be priests or women can't teach? Because I don't think it means women can't teach children like basic things.
I think, and I could be wrong about this because I'm not a theologian, so take that with a grain of salt. I think Timothy 2:12 is typically referring to women teaching inside of a church about theology. So that like is both
being a priest, essentially.
Priests, or even I think some trads will extend that to a catechist as well.
You don't think women can be catechists?
I think it's a mortal sin to vote for a woman.
To vote for a woman?
Yep. Vote for a woman.
Well, I mean, I'm not voting for politicians here. We're talking about catechism. That's a different thing. I'm
going to sit on a fence on that one. I have had someone who's had both a male and a female catechist. It's anecdote. So
okay, what if? All right, I'm gonna give you a hypothetical here. What if you could have Mary as your teacher?
I'm okay with if it's a consecrated nun, I'm cool with that.
So, like, for example, Mother Angelica.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
Well, yeah, I mean, isn't that kind of the point?
I'm not firm on this opinion, but I think generally, yeah. And I
think
I don't mind if they're teaching, and I think this is the teaching of Timothy 2:12. I don't mind if they're teaching outside of a church building. It can even be about some theological thing, but I don't think it should be anything close to resembling a sermon or anything. I mean, I come from Protestantism, so I mean that is a very scandalous thing.
How do you think that Protestantism biased your Catholicism?
Didn't it? I mean, it just made me. I think it made me very. It probably made me pretty anti-Novus Ordo just because it felt Protestant, to be honest. And like that is my honest experience. Don't shame me for my honest. I'm speaking my truth right now.
That's a Gen Z phrase if I've ever heard one.
But like it just felt Protestant to me. To be honest, it just reminded me. So I grew up evangelical, and I converted, a few years ago, and it just a lot of the vibes, the music, and it like I've been to some Novus Orders that are better than others, and some that are significantly worse than others, but it just feels Protestant. I'm sorry. This is my opinion.
So how long were you Catholic before you went to a traditional mass?
I went to my first traditional mass when I was getting catechized. But I started regularly attending the traditional mass probably a year ago.
Okay. So how long have you been Catholic?
I was suffering through Novus Ordo for about a year. I haven't been Catholic that long.
You've been Catholic about 2 years then, maybe 2.5.
So I got held back in in catechism class for I joined catechism class a little bit too late to come in the first cycle. So I basically had like an extra like RCIA class, which by that point, like I am such a autist, like I probably could have taught the class at that point. So it is I've been very well catechized, and at that point I was just like, get it done. I just want to be baptized because I wasn't baptized as a Protestant.
See, when I believe, so here I'm going to out myself. I taught catechism years ago, and there, like what I taught back then, I would never teach that way now. I was teaching out of the book, and the book was terrible.
The books are always terrible. Yeah.
So what some people I know that teach it now, they basically say, all right, your homework is the book. We're going to learn actual Catholicism in the classroom. And I'm like, that's how you should do it.
Yeah.
Because then you get the parents stuck trying to get their kids to go through the book. And then the parents might learn something along the way too. So.
Yeah. I mean, the first cycle, we had like an actual, like genuine Thomist teach it, and it was great. And the second cycle, we had a married deacon teach it, and it was absolutely terrible.
Like a permanent deacon?
Yeah. Terrible and scandalizing.
So permanent deacons, from my own experience, are like 50-50. They're either based or they're terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, where I'm at now, almost all of them are based or retired. And some of them are based and retired. But anyways, but the thing about the permanent diaconate is I don't think the diaconate was ever intended to be a permanent diaconate in that way, because it was always intended to be a step towards the priesthood. And you could kind of look at it like, maybe, for example, there's a deacon who becomes a deacon, he's married, and then his wife passes away. Well, sure, then he becomes a priest, right? I mean, that's what I would think.
Yeah.
But for those deacons who are married and their wife outlives them, well, of course, they're never going to become a priest, because you can't.
Yeah. I don't know. It's I haven't looked into it that much, but I just based on my experience, I'm not a fan. I'll leave it at that.
So here, I guess the next question is, all right, so you have, or at least at some point, you've been attending an SSPX parish, correct?
Yes.
I don't want to give too much away here. But what is your opinion of the SSPX Mass?
It's the best mass one can go to. I'm a big fan.
I've seen some SSPX I almost said masses on YouTube, because they do film some of them, and I'm just impressed by how well they do it.
I mean, you got to think, like the SSPX seminarians, like it's so drilled into them, like how to do the mass. And they are so people I mean, you got to think there's a self-selection process here,
right?
Like the people who choose to be an SSPX seminarian, they do it because they love the TLM, and they choose the SSPX over like the FSSP or something like that, because they are very much looking for that kind of hardcore version, following all the rubrics, balls to the wall, to use a Zoomer term. And
that's not a Zoomer term.
Listen,
that definitely started with millennials. Thank you very much.
Your terms that are good, we'll take them, and your terms that are bad, we're gonna let die.
Gen Z's like, you guys get zilch. We get all the credit.
You get no credit. No, you deserve nothing.
That's okay. I think Jason thought I was Gen Z, and I'm like, bro, I was born in the 90s.
Yeah, that's rough. I mean, I was born in the 90s too.
Late
just
90s.
just the last month.
The last month. You're like, you could probably be considered a millennial then. If you wanted to
Yeah,
fight
but I don't want to.
it. That's why you got called an unk once.
Yeah, I enjoy calling myself a Zoomer way too much.
You're
Yeah.
like you're on the edge of Zoomer and millennial. That's a moomer.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
So I mean, I
Go ahead. Sorry, SSPX.
I
Back to the
got
stuff
in
you like.
I got into the society because it was the only Latin mass basically available in my entire diocese. That wasn't like an hour and a half away. Because like, so those are my options. All right. So I went to a Novus Ordo. And it was a, I'm not gonna lie, it was a pretty good Novus Ordo. But my priest, unfortunately, the one that, catechized me, brought me into the faith, he passed away. And the parish, kind of died a little bit. I mean, it's still, I guess, still going. It's a little bit more reverent than the other ones, but I knew I had to get out. And TC, since I have a Francis bishop in my diocese, is pretty well enforced. There's one TLM. I guess they're not allowed to be called parish. So chapel or whatever, or church.
Yeah, the Traditionis Custodes official wording is like they have to be in non-parish churches.
Yeah. There's one church in the whole diocese, which is the entire, eastern half of North Carolina, that is a Latin Mass church, and I don't live near it. So, and then there's an SSPX church literally like very close to me. I won't give the exact number so you all can't find me, because there's not a lot of North Carolina, so you can kind of do some research. Anyways.
I ain't gonna do that. I ain't got the time for that.
Yeah. So I was like, it's easy choice. And then once I got into it, I was like, okay, am I committing like a evil schismatic act? And my bishop's pretty cool about that kind of stuff, because he's a Francis guy and he's very ecumenical. And he kind of likes the SSPX. So I was allowed to go. And then I looked into some of the stuff about the society, about the our great Saint Lefebvre, and and kind of went from there. I kind of like taught myself after I already jumped in. That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. So here's the lovely letter regarding the SSPX in the Archdiocese of Detroit and why I don't attend there. Regarding the Society of St. Pius X, this is the Archdiocese of Detroit needs to update this. This is a
2009 is crazy.
Right. That's what I'm saying. This thing is still the only Google search that comes up when you type in Archdiocese of Detroit SSPX. It says this: the Society of St. Pius X was established by the late Archbishop Marcel Lefebvre, who is opposed to many of the changes in the church that came as a result of Vatican II. Since 1975, the society has not been in full communion with the Holy See. Over the years, there have been repeated attempts by Pope Paul VI, Pope John Paul II, and now Pope Benedict XVI to heal this rift. Look, they don't even have Pope Francis and all the things he did in there. And to bring members of the Society of St. Pius X back into full union with the church. To date, these attempts have been unsuccessful. And then it says, please note, Society of St. Pius X has established a number of churches in Southeast Michigan. And their signage, these churches identify themselves as Catholic churches, even though they are not in full communion with Roman Catholic Church. Faithful Catholics need to know that ministers in these churches cannot legitimately exercise any ministry in the church. That's where they're wrong. They have at least confession and, when granted, the ability to celebrate matrimony. They do not have faculty to hear confessions. This is why I'm saying, Archdiocese of Detroit, you are literally saying the opposite of what the Pope is saying.
Yeah, they need to fix
this.
that.
Fix it. I've sent this to the Archbishop, multiple archbishops. I'm like, you guys are wrong. Like, just flat out. And they don't respond. They don't respond. So whatever. Like, you have to admit, this is not true. They have the faculty to hear confessions validly per Pope Francis. Fix it.
Yeah, and the CDF did release a document that says that you can go to the SSPX to fulfill your Sunday Mass, as long as you're doing it out of love for the for the Trinity Mass. So,
and not out of hatred towards Novus Ordo.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so just feel some love, guys.
if you love tradition and you want to attend mass, just figure it out. Talk to your bishop, whatever they've, obedience, all that fun stuff, but figure it out. All right.
Yeah.
That's my biggest complaint about the Archdiocese of Detroit at this moment, besides the implementation of Traditionis Custodes, which huge damper on the whole community. But that right there, why is that still on the website as if it's a legitimate document?
I don't even think Raleigh Diocese has a document about the SSPX. So I guess
Detroit has they've had their finger on the pulse of the SSPX in Michigan for a long time.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty big up there.
It is, yeah.
Relatively, yeah.
It was considered a battleground of Vatican II, actually, Detroit. There was several cardinals that came in and wanted to implement this stuff immediately. And the cardinal that I believe was the bishop of Detroit at the time was Cardinal Maida, M-A-I-D-A, I think it was the right one. And he did not like the SSPX from what I've read.
Cringe.
But I mean, really, with the SSPX, which pope gave them the most faculties?
Our great, the best pope ever, Pope Francis, my king.
Your king.
I would never call him Bergoglio. He is the best pope.
Yeah, we're not going to follow in the footsteps of the Sedes. We like Pope Francis.
Yes, we love Pope Francis.
So it's funny, like, would you have ever heard of a traditional Latin Mass if not for Pope Francis banning it?
Probably not.
It's
maybe
the Barbra Streisand effect.
Maybe the Jesuits are in control, and he just decided to make himself the villain so that the whole church would unite against him.
Going Dr. Manhattan, huh?
Unfortunately, he underestimated how stupid the Pope's planners are. Sorry, I love you guys. I love everybody.
Listen, Pope Respecter. We're still having this podcast in the future.
I don't love you, Pope Respecter. I'm sorry. He blocked me. I'm on that
Did
list.
He really?
Yeah.
No, he actually follows my account.
Sorry.
I
don't speak for Chris, guys.
Pope Respecter, I will interview you. I want to hear what you have to say about the Pope's planning with Pope Francis. I feel like that was a full-time job at sometimes.
Yeah.
And just for the record, there's an invitation out there for Michael Lofton to come on here and defend his positions. I'm happy to have him on here and interested to hear what he has to say.
Oh, boy.
I'm not going to say that I've been the most charitable to Michael Lofton, but I will host him and hear what he has to say. I'm curious. All right. On that note, let's see. What's next? Lefebvre. Let's get into that.
Lefebvre.
So how much do you know about Lefebvre?
Pretty good amount.
Have you read any of his books?
Oh, yeah. Open Letter to Confused Catholic.
That's a great book.
Against the Heresies. I love Lefebvre. I'm a big Lefebvre guy. I think the Gen Z loves Lefebvre. Even some of the Pope Splainer guys like him a little bit just because he has aura. And that's really it. I mean, he looks like a young Ryan Gosling.
He really does.
Yeah, like it's uncanny. So like you kind of have to like him a little bit. Most people who like are anti SSPX, in my experience, don't know anything about it, and they just repeat what they are told, or what they think based off of faulty information. I think when you do like a decent amount of reading, you're like, oh, these guys are Catholic. It's their they'll like to lump like the SSPX in with the seeds, and like I got some seed friends that they definitely would not lump themselves in with the SSPX. I'll tell you that.
To be completely fair, though, like the only act that Lefebvre ever did that he went against the wishes of the Pope, allegedly, maybe the Cardinal. I don't remember if it was the Pope or the Cardinal officially, but the wishes of the Vatican, we'll say that, was when he consecrated the bishops.
Yes.
Up until that point, the SSPX, there were no canonical issues.
Yep. And the FSSP split off with the consecration of the bishops, so they still believe in what the SSPX believes about the Second Vatican Council. So do with that.
Not only the Second Vatican Council, but a lot of these groups, like for example, the letter that was written by the Archbishop gave full permission in the same letter where he's like denouncing the TLM and removing parishes. In the letter it says, and by the way, the Institute of Christ the King, yeah, you guys can say your pre-55 liturgy. That's fine. It's like we're not even talking like pre-Vatican II. We're talking like pre John the 23rd condensing of Holy Week.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so we're taking a step back after one at a time. When are we going to get back to Divino Afflato? That's what I want to know.
Base.
Let's go pre 1911.
Let's go all the way back. Return.
No, so like I've got one of those breviary apps. Do you pray the breviary at all?
No.
You should definitely at least look at it. It's super interesting how much you can kind of schedule prayer time and start to feel it. Like, for example, when I miss every prayer of the day, which happens occasionally, I feel it. It's like dragging on my soul.
Damn.
It really does. Like, I'm not joking. And what I always pray the pre-62 office.
Base.
That's the one I like. I have multiple versions. My favorite version is the single volume one, although it's kind of lazy because it was actually printed in 1964, but it is the pre-62 office. I also have a full Latin office, which is very difficult for me, not being a fully fluent Latin speaker. But I try it.
At least you try. It's the thought that counts, you know.
Just like I went to a retreat where they had full on like monks who speak Latin, not monks, brothers. They're priests. I don't know if a monk is a priest or if a priest is a monk. I don't know the distinction, but anyways, they pray full Latin offices, and I'm just like, I can't keep up with you guys. I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen. The biggest thing that sucks about the 62 office, though, is unless you buy, there's like two versions that were remade in the modern day. One by a company called, or maybe not a company, a publisher, Nova Ad Vetra, which I think means like new and old, right? Nova Vetra, I think it's new and old. I don't know, whatever. And they basically took out what's called the Pius XII Psalter. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
So the Pius XII Psalter, for those that don't know, the Pius XII Psalter was instituted like middle of Vatican. No, I'm sorry, it's like 1940s actually. And they replaced the Psalter, the Gallican / Jerome Psalter, whatever you want to call it. It's the one they've been chanting for like 1,000 years, with a more classically Latin-based Psalter, which ruins your ability to do the Gregorian chants. So, like, if you buy a pre-62 office, you got to be careful about what Psalter's in it, because you won't ever be able to go to where the monks do it and chant with them, because they'll be saying one thing and you'll be saying something entirely. My favorite post about this, I think it was Father Joe Krupp. He goes by Joe in Black on Twitter. And it was a post of like a based Roman soldier going Veni Vidi Vici. And then it's like a guy in a toga who looks weak as all get out and saying Veni Vidi Vici with the W sound. And I literally about spit my coffee out when I saw it, because it was so funny to me because of the way the pronunciations work.
Yeah.
The classical Latin does not sound based.
It does not. It's very different.
Liturgical Latin, which has a bit of an Italian flair to it, sounds based.
I was taught classical Latin, so I've had to like unteach. I had to unlearn it throughout the years.
You need the soft C's.
Yeah. The softs, they go harder. You know?
The soft C's go harder. That's a quote for all time, guys. The soft C's go harder.
You either get it or you don't.
Oh man. So you took classical Latin for what reason?
I was in I took it in college.
Just for fun?
I needed a language. I went to a big, liberal arts school, and I took it in high school too. And I was into Roman history, so I was like, all right, Latin school, I can read Caesar's De Bello Gallico. So I used to still know, like I could at one point I could recite like a whole like the whole first like page of Caesar's De Bello Gallico from like memory.
That's impressive.
But I have since become stupid, so I can't do that anymore.
You should check out a friend of mine's website. Here, I'm gonna share it with you real quick. I think you would appreciate what he's doing for the church. Have you heard of this website? Church Latin Publishing. It's churchlatin.com.
Oh, let's go. I haven't heard of it, but
He has the full Latin Vulgate in like a
heck
fake leather for $100. And I have a copy of it. It is legit.
That's awesome.
Anytime I want to reference or look things up, I always go to this first.
As you should.
You should definitely check it out.
As a true Latin Catholic, that's what you should be doing.
There's also the he's got a hardcover and a soft cover. If you don't want to spend the $100, you can get the hardcover is actually pretty nice quality. It's a glued binding, but that should last a long time in that hardcover. This is sewn binding, so it's going to outlive you. It will outlive you unless you read it every day. He also has stuff about learning, which, by the way, I got to do reviews on these books. He sent me some. I got to do a review on them. But these books are great if you ever want to get into the older breviaries. Like if you get yourself a Baronius press set, which costs $400, you should get one of these like $10 books to learn how to actually pray it. Like that's worth your time. I'm telling you right now, it's worth your time to get one of these. He's also got some old hymnals, so like the St. Gregory hymnal. As he comes across like old out of print Latin documents and books, he tries to get them back in print.
That's cool.
It is one of, like, honestly, as far as like quote unquote traditionalism goes, this is an extremely important facet that most people don't take seriously. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
You're starting to yawn though, so why don't we get this thing somewhat wrapped up? What do you still want to talk about? Did we miss anything?
I don't know. I can always talk about everything. You know, I'm not.
Why do you care so much about Nietzsche?
Oh, that's a good question.
Is it just because you have like a love for his philosophy from college, or what?
Partly that. You know, in college I had a pretty tough time at some point. You know, I went to college during COVID.
That'd be rough.
It was my started my sophomore year. And it was rough because, you know, I was back at home, still going to school. Online, yeah, which is just terrible.
Not the way to do college, that's for sure.
Yeah. And I was, you know, kind of an agnostic at the time. I was like, I didn't not believe in God ever, because I think that's kind of lame and stupid, but like, I just didn't care. And when I read Nietzsche, what I got from it the most was the importance for someone to care about everything. If people read Nietzsche and they think he's a nihilist, they didn't understand him, which I get it. He's a hard person to understand. And I don't think I would recommend some of Nietzsche to everybody, but I wouldn't recommend all of Nietzsche to everybody. I think a lot of people can read Nietzsche and get into bad ideas because they misunderstand. And I think I'll eventually release some stuff on reading Nietzsche because people want me to. So I'm like the Nietzsche splainer. That's my next burner.
The Nietzsche splainer.
Yeah, I just have a soft spot for him. He got me out of some tough times, so I like him a lot. And I think that people give him a bad rap, especially in the Catholic space. And I think you can actually baptize a lot of what he says, which I continually do, much to Anthony and John's ire on Latin Slavs. So
what did he actually did he have any religious beliefs at all?
Yes. So I mean, it's a long story, but his dad was a Lutheran minister, right?
That would put you in a weird spot.
His dad died when Nietzsche was pretty young. And Nietzsche idolized his father because his dad died in like his prime. He was like 40. And he was like a very successful, like well-respected man. And Nietzsche was not like a very respected man during his lifetime. Like,
oh boy.
And he didn't live up to that stuff at all. So there was a lot of resentment within Nietzsche towards Christianity, in particular Protestantism. So I would say he was very strictly an atheist, and he would identify as an atheist. In that light, though, the famous Nietzsche quote, God is dead. People only quote the first half, which is that God is dead. But the second half goes on to say, and we were the ones who killed him. And what he's referencing is the rise of secularism, destroying religion, and the rise of the Protestant Reformation, which is my reading into it a little bit. But like he's a very ardent critic of secularism. His criticism of Christianity has to do with his views on morality and the master slave morality stuff, and that is probably too complicated for me to get into here. But I have been able to wrap my head around some interpretation to make it coherent with Catholicism. I'm telling you, I am literally the Pope respecter for Nietzsche. Like
well, you could make some arguments against clericalism, where it would be like a master slave kind of argument, because there was at one point some level of power where a pastor had over the congregation, and that wasn't always good, depending on how good the priest was.
Yeah, I would say, I think a lot of Nietzsche's criticism of Christianity, I think it does kind of lean into Protestantism, because Nietzsche is very big about hierarchy, just naturally in his life. And that's kind of where that's kind of where the Übermensch comes from. It is a hierarch. And you can synthesize a lot of it with Catholicism. I keep trying to. People keep telling me I'm crazy, but I'm telling you, there's going to be a Summa Theologica or Theologiae of Nietzsche instead of Aristotle. It's going to happen. I just need to sit down and write.
Cool. Anything else that we missed in this podcast?
I don't think so. I think we covered it all.
Do you believe in aliens?
No.
Okay.
And I don't think it would be licit to. I don't think they're saved, and I don't even remember what else Jimmy Akins said. That was crazy.
I have a hard time believing that there would ever be another sentient being created by God that wouldn't be in the Bible.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't like rock my world if there were, but like, who cares? Like, is that?
Well, I mean, like, I'm not saying that bacteria hasn't escaped the atmosphere and gone somewhere. It's possible.
Yeah. I just find those kind of questions kind of like worthless. They're just kind of causing problems for no reason. I guess hypothetically, sure, but no.
Hey, there's a whole bunch of them in this country. They're called illegals. No, just kidding.
Base. Deport Anthony.
All right. Yeah, gosh. He'd probably laugh about that too. Let's see here. Not the deportation, the joke. He would laugh about the joke. Let's see here. Last one, Genesis 3:15. Is it he shall or she shall crush thy head? Do you have an opinion?
Oh man, that's like a very contested issue.
Not if you're reading the early church. It's not. Depends.
What does the early church say? The
early church was pretty majority she.
My inclination is she. I again, not a theologian, so I'll just kind of rain on that. It fits the story a little bit better. That is my pure theologian's answer.
Pure theologian.
It's a better story.
We are not theologians. We are just people having conversations.
For sure.
And I'm going to laugh when I get off here in my Discord. It says, you have been removed from... No. Just kidding. If anything, I'm hoping we can get Majorian into the Discord server. That would be great.
That'd be great. If
our mutual friend Caleb's in there.
Oh, our boy.
Roy's our boy. No, not Roy. That's not his name. Anyway, on that note, Majorian, what do you want to plug before we leave this thing? Is there a specific niche book you want people to read?
You should probably start with Zarathustra, even though that's a hard one. I think it's just got most of his philosophy in there. As for like my stuff, if you go to my Twitter, which is the @ down there, the pinned tweet has a post linking to my workout programs. If you want a free workout program, I have 3-day, 4-day, and 5-day splits, all free. There will be a diet guide also. I don't believe in gatekeeping fitness knowledge behind a paywall. I'm very ardently opposed to that, and I don't like people who do that. So I will make all my stuff free, and it will all be available through that link. So feel free to check it out. I get nothing from that. I just do it for the love of the game.
And just for the record, this podcast is not monetized, and I'm not asking for your money. Give it to the church.
Based.
On that note, I'm going to sign us off here. Thank you for coming on and spending 2 hours with me and delving into what your thoughts were on that below your viral tweet.
Yeah.
You spent probably got me in hot water, but that's okay. I'm totally fine with that.
It'll happen, I guess. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if it did.
We're boiling like the grapers, and
yeah.
What is the joke? Like frogs boiling water don't realize it till they're boiled. Is that what it is? Yeah.
Yeah,
like
that's
that.
you right now.
That's me right now. On that note, hopefully you enjoyed this stream, and we'll get Majorian back on when I can't get any other guests. No, just kidding.
That's how it goes, though.
No. I'll probably end up being on Latin Slavs with you again sometime in the near future. That's my
probably.
guess.
Probably.
So if you want to see me a little less filtered, although probably more filtered, I don't know. I don't want to get Anthony canceled. Go check me out when I'm on Latin Slavs, or check them out when I'm not there either, because you'll see this lovely gentleman over there.
Oh yeah, I'll be over there.
I probably pulled him away from them tonight, and I apologize for that.
And they didn't even go tonight. So
they didn't? I thought they were.
Anthony's sick, I think. I don't know. Maybe they did. Maybe they did. I don't even know. All
right, well, say an
Ave. The third host.
Say an Ave Maria and a Paternoster for Anthony. My goodness, I say his name wrong every time. But on that note, this has been another episode of Crash Canon. I'll see you guys next week. I don't remember who I'm interviewing, but I think it's another Twitter anon. So we're on a pattern here, guys.
Let's go.
See you on the next one.